Mr. Barr here to talk to you guys about Unit 2 today. Unit 2 covers basic vehicle control. We're going to look at systems and checks prior to driving, basic control tasks, and basic maneuvers. First chapter, Chapter 4, is systems and checks prior to driving. It's important to make sure that every time you get in your vehicle, your seat is in correct position. Not as big of an issue in your own personal car because it's going to be set up for you, but in the driver's ed car, it's important to make sure that mirrors and everything are set up for you every time you get in the car, since somebody else has probably driven it since the last time you did. Steering wheel, same way, set it up to be comfortable for you. Air conditioning, heating and vents, and all that good stuff as well. The ignition switch is where the car will start. Old school is key when you turn until it starts. A lot of them nowadays are push buttons, so it just depends on your system. Accelerator is on the right. That is what we use to move. Brake pedal is next to it. Only use 1 foot, do not use 2 feet. The only vehicle allowed to use 2 feet is a vehicle that has a manual transmission. Steering wheel should be held not at the normal statement of 10 and 2 that you've heard in the past. It should actually be held at the 9-3, and I'll get more into that here in a second. The gear shifter is what puts the car in gear. You typically have park, which is where you should put it when you're done driving and when you're trying to start it. Reverse is when you back up. Neutral is when you want to have no gear, and drive is when you want to go forward. Typically there is going to be a low gear, a 3, a 2, or something like that, that is used for hills or if you're stuck. A manual transmission is a stick shift, also known as, would have a clutch pedal, so this will have a third pedal. This will be the time where the left foot comes into play. Parking brake is typically going to be located with your left foot. Push that in when you're done and turn it off when you start. This is something that you have to do in the driver's ed car, but in your own personal car you probably won't do this. But like I said, especially in the driver's ed car. Cruise control is what you do when you want to keep 1 speed all the time. I highly promote cruise control. In the driver's ed driving portion, I don't allow you to use it, but once you get your own license and you're driving around and you're going from A to B for a long period of time, set the cruise, save yourself from getting tickets. The second section here is visibility and protective systems. This would be your headlights, tail lights, running lights, fog lights, any light like that. This is probably the #1 reason people get pulled over, because it's the most obvious reason. So make sure you take it, time to look at your lights. If you've ever noticed when you go to get your oil changed, if you do that, they check them there for you. Anytime you do an oil change, if you do oil changes yourself, you should probably do the same thing. Rear view and side view mirrors, they all have blind spots. Blind spots are areas where you can't see other cars. That's why you have to turn your head to check your blind spot. Windshield wipers and washers are necessities. Wipers that are old actually make your windshield worse than what it was before. So make sure you get those fixed if they are broken. You can typically go to a store and there's a machine that types in what the make and model of your car is, and it tells you what wiper you need to do. If you're nice enough, a lot of places will actually put it on for you, or otherwise you should be able to figure it out. Sun visors are the flip down thing that you put down when you're driving if sun is in your eyes. And defrost is used for cold weather. Safety devices is the next section here. Active versus passive. Active means you have to put them on. Passive means that they are waiting and ready to use when necessary. Safety belts, put them on every time. Head restraints is the top of the seat. That's restricting your head from going backwards. It should hit you in the fat part of your head, not the neck. And then airbags are there for frontal protection, and you need to make sure that you're far enough away so it can properly deploy. Door locks, cars automatically lock most nowadays. If your car doesn't automatically lock, you should lock, because that just, again, is just one more way to make sure your car door doesn't open if there is some sort of accident. Then there's some theft stuff on here. The ignition buzzer is actually an anti-theft because it's telling you that you left your keys in the car. Locks and anti-other theft devices. Then it goes into section 3, which is information and communication systems. Speedometer, odometer. Speedometer is for speed. Odometer is for miles. Fuel gauge is for telling you how much fuel you have left in the tank. I tell my students treat a quarter or an eighth as empty. Don't go all the way down to empty because it's too late by then. Alternator is your electronic brain of the car, makes things go. Typical breakdown on those. Temperature warning is typically it should be sitting right in the middle. If it starts to get too far to the right on the high end, eventually you need to get something taken care of there. And oil pressure is about the same. You want to kind of ride in the middle. Brake warning lights are just warning you of possible brake issues. Tail lights are in the back. Directional signals are for telling you if you're turning right or left. Emergency flashers are used to warn drivers, hazards, you may have heard them as otherwise, of something different going on around you. Before you take off in your vehicle, make sure you check around it, look for any sort of leak, flat tire, damage that may have been done since the last time you were in that vehicle. If you can't do that every time, you should do it at least once a week, or at the bare minimum, check your car out every time you do an oil change. The wheels, you want to make sure the wheels are properly inflated. You want to make sure that there is no leaks on those from time to time. Check the car body for different types of damage. Check under the hood anytime you do an oil change, looking for bad battery connections or anything along those lines. Once you get into the vehicle, check to make sure everything is clean, and make sure you check that everybody is wearing their safety belts like they're supposed to. After you get in the vehicle, again, make sure you check to make sure that everybody is in the car and is properly belted before you leave, because they are your responsibility. Make sure there's nothing on the floor that could get in the way of your gas or brake. Adjust your head restraints and go through all the other adjustments we talked about prior to driving, whether that is mirrors, steering wheel position. Make sure everything is good to go before you take off, because once you're driving, it's not really safe for you to want to do any sort of adjustment. That is it for Chapter 4 of Unit 2. The other thing I'm going to say on this video is all you remote learners that have not taken a permit test yet, or if you are ever out on quarantine and you haven't done the permit test yet, you need to get a hold of me to set up a date to do your permit test. The best dates for me are Tuesday, Thursdays from 12:30, or sorry, probably, yeah, we could do 12:30 on Tuesday, Thursdays, so you guys can get in and get done. So I need you guys to tell me that, and you only have 2 weeks to get those done. So make sure you check on that. I'll put a message on the classroom as well. So make sure you are getting all your work done. Only a couple weeks left in the class.